Conclusion. Quote, your time is limited, so don't waste it living someone else's life. Don't be trapped by dogma, which is living with the results of other people's thinking. Don't let the noise of others' opinions drown out your own inner voice. And most important, have the courage to follow your heart and intuition. They somehow already know what you truly want to become. Everything else is secondary. End quote. Steve Jobs, 2005 Stanford University commencement speech. When I started composing the chapters of this book in 2008, what simply began as jotting down information and observations in a journal, I had no concept of where this project would lead. All I knew is that there were many subjects out there that I had a passion to understand and articulate. These subjects received little, if any, attention and wove such a fascinating and comprehensive alternative narrative that I feverishly pursued my writing. Eventually, the book title came to me in the shower, and all the sections and additional chapters started to fall into place. I didn't know how any of this would materialize, and on occasion I wondered if it was all worthwhile. As I progressed, I was reminded that many artistic and literary masters also grappled with self-doubt. Even the great Ernest Hemingway reflected similar feelings on the subject when he observed, quote, I was completely ashamed of myself as a writer. I felt that I was simply a carpenter with words, picking up whatever was furnished on the job and nailing them together and sometimes making an okay pig pen. End quote. As a travel journalist, writing this book was a total departure for me. Yet I followed the course wherever it would take me, and my strokes had some of the qualities of my travel writing. Similar to Hemingway, I hope to have constructed an okay pig pen. As my own worst critic, I wrote this book as much for me as for you. I've always looked at writing books with the idea that if I were buying my own book, what would I want to learn and discover inside? Would I reference the content of these pages and use it for years to come? Would I recommend it to others? If this book ever receives the wide attention which I think it greatly deserves, I have a feeling there will be critics who will say I have no authority to write a book on this subject. They could be correct, because I have not written on most of these subjects before. I will be the first to admit that apart from one sighting, I do not consider myself a UFO expert, nor am I even a substantiated eyewitness. I am not an insider who became a whistleblower, and I've never taken a security oath. I'm not a scientific expert, nor do I hold an advanced degree in some of the topics I cover. What I am is a good storyteller who has an unlimited curiosity about the workings of everything around us and the seemingly suppressed human condition. As such, I have been researching these subjects for decades, mostly in my own personal quest for self-betterment and intellectual inquiry. Many new subjects also came to my attention during the writing of this book. Ralph Waldo Emerson once said, quote, talent alone cannot make a writer. There must be a man behind the book, end quote. Because this book is a person who has always searched for the truth, even if some of those avenues of discovery, such as UFO research, were unpopular. I strongly believe world peace is possible, and with others, I have established an educational nonprofit organization devoted to the philosophical pursuit of defining benevolent technology that could positively advance the human race. I have no agenda in presenting this book other than to offer the alternative narrative as comprehensively and accurately as possible. The information in this book is the result of a decades-long collection of data, recognizing patterns, and having the courage to follow my intuition. I feel this future esoteric manifesto has the potential to greatly impact future generations. It is either the most important information held back from the human race, or it will go down in history as the defining mythology of our age. I am content with either outcome. Debunkers of a modern enigma. As I was compiling the text for the first two books in the Esoteric Series, it was abundantly clear that the information contained would seem to many readers as phantasmal, if not outright impossible. As someone who believes in logic and the scientific method, I welcomed debunkers or skeptics to join the debate. I was brought up by two atheist parents who encouraged my two siblings and myself to explore life and anything beyond for ourselves. As a teen, I subscribed to the Skeptical Inquirer magazine and attended American atheist meetings. Yet as we grow older, we have the advantage of accumulating experiences and knowledge, with the result that our convictions have a tendency to change over time. Even though pride is a basic human flaw, wisdom allows us to grow intellectually. I am grateful that I have continued to be curious and to grow and change, and that is never something to be ashamed of. Knowledge is power, and questioning is patriotic. Why will many people resist or find the information contained in this book difficult to digest? Each of us has a worldview which is largely conditioned and formed by the culture in which we grew up, particularly what our parents taught us. When we hear information that contradicts our core worldview, social psychologists call the resulting insecurity cognitive dissonance. One cognitive belief is the official story that UFOs do not exist, repeated over and over. On the other hand, there is a growing body of evidence that tells us the official story cannot be true. Now we have lost our sense of security. Now we are vulnerable and confused. When a person's core beliefs are questioned, or when two compelling beliefs are inconsistent, there is cognitive dissonance. Regarding the extraterrestrial phenomenon, here is a typical example of handling upsetting new information. If the huge number of contacts and abductees are telling even a particle of the truth, then it follows that their alien friends are not attempting to keep their own existence a secret. Well, in that case, why do they never stay still for more than a single shot photo? There has never been an uncut roll of film offered, let alone a small piece of metal unavailable on Earth, or a tiny sample of tissue. And sketches of the beings have a consistent anthropomorphic resemblance to those offered in science fiction comics. Since travel from Alpha Centauri, the preferred origin, would involve some bending of the laws of physics, even the smallest particle of matter would be of enormous use and would have a literally earth-shattering effect. Instead of which, nothing. Nothing, that is, except the growth of a huge new superstition based upon a belief in occult texts and shards that are available only to a favored few, end quote. The professional debunkers, such as the view of Christopher Hitchens above, whose ideological denials boil down to the claim that such things never happen, or if they did, they are just anecdotes, unworthy of our careful thought and serious attention. Such mock rationalisms, such defense mechanisms, such cowardly refusals to think outside of the box will only resign these authors to obscurity and irrelevance, because by doing so is to deny each of us the irreducibly unrepeatable, unquantifiable, and subjective ability to be an antidote. By framing the argument and reducing the discussion to a casual dismissal, Hitchens bundles the entire ET phenomenon into a comic book-like farce. By being ruthlessly pragmatic, he closes the door to all alternative study, and by doing so, essentially ends the discussion and deprives himself of future discovery on the subject. Hitchens and other UFO debunkers also flatly deny, let alone fail to weigh, the overwhelming physical evidence, much of it presented in this book. Nor do the naysayers consider the millions of mass sightings and the majority perception on the subject. It bears repeating that a report by the United Nations says since 1947, more than 150 million people have been witnesses to UFO sightings throughout the world, and of those, more than 20,000 have been documented landings. A recent Roper poll conducted in the United States reported that 70% of the U.S. population believes that the government is not telling the public everything it knows about UFOs and extraterrestrials. Taken together with the abduction, cattle mutilation, and crop circle phenomenon, there is clearly something very large at hand being controlled under the strictest of secrecy. Always follow your passion. I have never been involved in any organized religions per se, not even Buddhism, for which I have a great deal of respect, but would not consider myself an adherent. Yet I have considered myself spiritual since my late 20s. I do examine the many religious texts out there because I believe they all include intriguing aspects of the same story. One can find profound knowledge from various New Age books and from the annals of ancient religious texts. Many of these sources are quoted in the Esoteric Series of books. I believe that we as humans are inherently creators, like the one creator, and we are all one with that creator by whatever that name that creator is called. I also believe we will be moving into a higher level of consciousness where we can consciously and physically co-create in our world, since we are only unconsciously co-creating at that moment. Our lives are lined with signposts to help guide us along our life's path and remind us of our goals and intentions. It's just that most of us forget to watch out for the signs or are unmindful that we are following a course unique to each one of us. Sometimes we cannot remember the lessons, but they still influence our life's path. If you can follow your intuitive lessons from day to day, you will be on course to a happy and healthy life. Your higher self never forgets your life mission. We are all learning our life lessons every day while we strive to graduate from Earth School, whether we are aware of it or not. Before being born, we were all given a glimpse of our life path, for a labyrinth of choices always comes our way as we navigate towards our chosen goal. All lives are chosen, as are the lessons we encounter. We may sometimes feel the need to improve a certain aspect of our being, such as making a commitment to honesty. A life path is chosen to help us with this learning. A lifetime of stealing will frequently get the person in trouble or a prison sentence, and their life's lesson can be lost. Often we are distracted, the chosen path forgotten, and therefore the lesson does not take place. So we must then attempt it over again. For some, this can happen many times before any progress is made. Karma is a very real law throughout the universe. The glimpse of your life before it manifests is to help you remember which choice to make if you are to reach your goal, but still is easy to forget. Just as you forget your dreams when you awaken from sleep, it is easy to forget your chosen path once you are born. Practice makes perfect, as they say, and as one lives through more and more experiences, it is easier to focus on goals that you've set for yourself. Thus, the older, more experienced soul has fewer distractions and does not get hooked into power plays, does not sell out to the highest bidder, and usually stands out for totally different reasons than those who are glorified by the promoters of fame and fortune. All of your emotional energy, including your intent, your joys, your pains, and your sorrows, all become your emotional imprint. By following your passions, your soul, the spirit of your higher self, is given the opportunity to bathe in the wondrous excitement of these physical endeavors. By the very act of following what excites you, there is little negative energy attaching itself to your physical framework. Negative energy is what causes most illnesses upon people. Stay positive and your world will change around you in so many positive ways. Just as violence begets violence and negativity in turn draws in more negativity, conversely, positive behavior attracts positive returns. A weird universe. There is a process we all had to go through upon our arrival back on Earth that normally edits our memory of everything that has happened off planet and in our past lives. It is the physical process of fitting us back into the normal state, which you might call a denser being, a more compressed self. In other words, in each new lifetime, we are really spiritual beings simply having another physical experience. The new material we have absorbed as non-physical entities, the new information gathered, hardly ever holds. It is like our dreams. In fact, it is exactly like a dream memory. We might remember some very small fractions, but quickly the details will fade, and try as we might, we will lose most of our recall.
Call from.
Tough technology day. Jeez Louise. I just need to Take it from the top again. Sorry, everybody. It's one of those days. A weird universe. There is a process we all had to go through upon our arrival back on Earth that normally edits our memory of everything that has happened off planet and in our past lives. It is the physical process of fitting us back into the normal state, what you might call a denser being, a more compressed self. In other words, in each new lifetime, we are really spiritual beings simply having another physical experience. The new material we have absorbed as non-physical entities, the new information gathered, hardly ever holds. It is like our dreams. In fact, it is exactly like a dream memory. We might remember some very small fractions, but quickly the details will fade, and try as we might, we will lose most of our recall. However, in the near future, we may be in contact with technology that will allow us to traverse time, space, and dimensions just as easily as we would cut a cake. Imagine a cell phone-sized device that could interact with your mind and pull up a holographic video of any historical event, or could completely reveal all of your past lives in the greatest of detail. Talk about the next killer app. When I began writing this book, I believed in aliens visiting Earth from afar, but in a touch-and-go, non-malicious kind of way. Now I suspect we're under a collective spell from entities that have been on this planet for a very long time. Before I believed in the Greys visiting Earth, and still do, but now enter their masters, the draconian reptilians. Quote, our planet is run by telepathic alpha Dracos who possess the mind of human leaders by blackmail, by corruption, and by force, says Andromedan contactee Alex Collier. He continues, quote, alpha Dracos are attempting to conquer this whole galaxy utilizing trickery and deceit, end quote. I may lose credibility with some readers for promoting this viewpoint, but I believe it to be true, and in time, I feel it will become common knowledge. I could be wrong, and the Greys and Dracos are only part of the mosaic of our modern folklore, but if I am right, we are talking of no less than the worst assault on humanity in all time. For this reason alone, I implore the reader to seriously consider this scenario. Do your own research and come to your own educated conclusion. We fear being attacked by an outright alien invasion, but they've been here all along with an agenda to enslave the human race. Being strong, intelligent, telepathic, and much ahead of us technologically, they live in underground bases here on Earth and have a huge advantage over humans. It would appear many top decision makers in the world today are compromised under their control via implants, telepathy, or blackmail. We may be superior in numbers, but they are much farther advanced technologically, with the added protection of the extreme secrecy granted to them by the cabal and secret government, who seem to be in a lockstep alliance. The mere fact that revealing their presence would be so beyond belief to most people remains their greatest protection. The Greys and their Alpha Draco masters are the baddies, while the theomorphic interdimensional beings in contact with the higher mind and who travel in plasma ships are the goodies. This is again a dramatic example of the duality of the universe.
There seems to be a kernel of truth in all folklore, both ancient and modern. As someone who was not raised a Christian, I've tended to reject the stories of the Bible and the principles of the Judean-Christian faith. Since starting this book, I've reevaluated my position on Christianity. Jesus preached peace and love, which is always a good thing. Maybe heaven is an allegory for the post-death experience. It could be that extraterrestrial humans, widely regarded in ancient folklore as angels, elves, leprechauns, fairies, jinn, and others, have been guiding and helping us all along. Virtually every ancient culture reports human-looking gods who came and brought them written language, mathematics, agriculture, irrigation, animal husbandry, building techniques, astronomy, and extensive spiritual teachings. But most revealing is the notion of hell, which is presided over by Satan and his legion of demons. What was once easily dismissed as a fantasy now appears to me to hold that kernel of truth. Could the concept of Satan be a description of the Alpha Dracos with their gray minions? Draconians are described as tall, muscular, and scaly like the devil, both sporting horns and goat-like slits for eye pupils. Both the devil and reptilians are at odds with the good people, and part of their sinister nature is that they can mentally take over and coerce unsuspecting humans. Could this be the allegory of evil humans making a pact with the devil? Both reptilians and the devil are said to live below the surface of the earth. These masters of the underworld maliciously manipulate and control humans with a penchant for what we would call evil. Could the age-old image of the devil be the same as the Draconians? Is this the hideous creature that appears in a sorcerer's spell or a black magic ritual? After all, the greatest trick the devil ever played on humans was to make us believe he didn't exist. As people turn away from spirituality, some turn to cult worship. These misguided individuals might attract from whatever reality or dimension unknown alien creatures, sometimes referred to as archons, which could potentially migrate the way from planet to planet, seeking those who call in their dark energy. It would seem that the agenda of dark forces is part of an unseen war, which is, in fact, a war for the human mind. UFO researcher Jacques Vallée noted in his book Confrontations, quote, "The medical examinations to which abductees are said to be subjected, often accompanied by sadistic sexual manipulation, is reminiscent of the medieval tales of encounters with demons," end quote. And in the end, age-old questions relating to the fear of death, where we go when we die, and whether we need to be reincarnated have been the subject examined by mystics and masters since time immemorial. There are reports of ghost hauntings, the light at the end of the tunnel, the astral healing center, and soul families. There are activities in the afterlife, communications beyond the grave, and preparations for the next life to consider. We each have two bodies back on earth, the physical and the non-physical, so we never walk alone. Most people on earth intrinsically know this, but our sciences is working hard to distance itself from merging with spirituality. The greatest human advancements, the ultimate modern esoteric study, is to fuse these two aspects of humanity into one whole. In other words, for us to be fully aware of our other self, the human potential, our real experience on this planet, and many other fascinating subjects are included in the two companions to this book. The first book in the Esoteric series is titled Modern Esoteric, Beyond Our Senses. And the final book is Beyond Esoteric, The Ultimate Journey, due out in 2020. For the human race to reach its full potential, we need access to the absolute truth. So many lies, spins, and half-truths have been cast that no one really knows what to believe anymore. No wonder there is so much mistrust in government these days. We have long since passed the point where we can trust government on any level. We must insist on complete transparency in any government that claims to work for the people and be representative of the people, including everything that is happening with the military, spy agencies, and the black operations. The agenda of the New World Order must be revealed and defeated. The exploitative money system, especially the American system of capitalism, absolutely must change or be eliminated altogether. We need to know our real Earth history, both past and present, even beyond our galaxy. We need to come to terms with and understand other ET civilizations, some who come from way out there in the far reaches of the universe, and others that are already here. But most importantly, we need to know who we are as spiritual individuals on a personal level and rediscover the tools we need to reach our highest potential. The hero's journey can become the journey of each individual, a journey that reunites us with the natural order along a path. I can only hope your life journey has been as rewarding as mine. Remember that every breath you take is a blessing, and you always have the freedom to choose and align yourself with the light. Until the age of transparency is a foregone conclusion, strive to know everything and believe nothing until it's proven. Most importantly, just love yourself. Happy travels. Thank you for listening.